Good evening. Tonight is Monday, November 16th, and we do have a quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. Due to the current federal and state emergency declarations and guidance about limiting person-to-person contact due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting of the Edina Public School District School Board is being conducted online in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D-021, meetings by telephone or other electronic means. Members of the public may monitor this meeting remotely through the district's YouTube channel. School board members and other meeting attendees are reminded to mute their microphone or phone when they are not speaking. Meeting attendees wishing to speak should unmute their microphone so I can see who is waiting to speak and then wait to be recognized. I will determine the order in which attendees wishing to speak will be recognized. This board meeting is currently being conducted in the district office conference room on the third floor of the Edina Community Center. This meeting will also be conducted using the Google Meets platform and will be streamed on the Edina Public Schools YouTube channel. Some board members will be present in the district office conference room and others will be remote. Due to the rising COVID rates in our community and for the health and safety of our board members, administrators, and community members, after tonight's board meeting, our school board meetings will revert back to their previous all online format. Members of the public who wish to address the board remotely will still have the option to submit their statements ahead of time to have them read at the board meeting. The board will continue to read all emails sent to the board. The public is asked to go to the website and to send an email by noon the day of the board meeting to schoolboard@edinaschools.org. Add to the subject line board meeting comment. Please provide what you want read in the body of the email. If you have any questions about our board meetings, please contact the superintendent's office. The first order of business is agenda approval. I just want to note that we are going to be moving the CES Hourly Employees Guidebook, non-affiliated Employees Guidebook, the CES Hourly Employees Guidebook and the non-affiliated guidebook to action items. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's regular meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Tonight's agenda is approved. John, will you please review?
No.
We have to vote on the agenda.
You got to vote.
Oh, we have to vote by roll call. Sorry.
Okay. Allenberg,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Michelson,
Aye.
Shaw,
Aye.
Wallen Friedman.
Aye.
Now the agenda is approved. I was excited to go back to pre-COVID times when we could just vote. So I apologize for that error on my part. John, will you please review the agenda for us?
Yes, so tonight we have an Excellence in Action. We will hear from members of the public that Director John Tope will read. We have on the consent agenda minutes as well as contracts for services as well as a contract with Braemar Facilities. For reports and discussion, we have technology levy update, and the decision related to this is the timing of that technology levy and the referendum of that levy. We have a policy review in a rapid policy review of 424, policy review of 406, 423. And then under action, in addition to the two guidebooks that Chair Allenberg just moved, we also have approval of the science curriculum adoption. Jody will be here to present that, and then a series of policy reviews. So that is the agenda.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Schwartz. First, we have our Excellence in Action portion of the meeting, and tonight we want to honor the district's National Merit semifinalists and commended students. Our tradition in the district has been to host a reception to recognize these students and in turn let them have an opportunity to honor an educator who has influenced their academic success. In these socially distanced times, we instead offer a virtual recognition event in a Flipgrid format. We hope you take some time to listen to these accomplished students talk about the ways Edina's teachers have supported, influenced, and inspired them. A link to the Flipgrid can be found on the district's website's newsfeed and on Facebook. Here are the opening remarks by EHS Principal Andy Beaton.
Good afternoon, Edina High School students, families, staff. My name is Andy Beaton. I'm the principal of Edina High School. It gives me great pleasure to provide some words of encouragement and support and recognition to this year's National Merit Scholars. I want to say thanks to the Communications Department for putting together this program in a very challenging time. Thanks, students, for participating and recognizing the teachers that have guided you along the way. A special thanks to our teachers just in general for their great work, their modeling, their excellence, and providing that feedback to our students to be able to grow and truly become outstanding young people. Parents, we know that the village to raise such outstanding scholars. Thanks for sticking with kids when they didn't want to practice the piano, finish their assignment, make the edits on their papers, go in and talk to their teacher for extra help. Thanks for pushing, and thanks for showing your love for your kids. We're really proud of the work that they do. And finally, to students, you make us proud. You make us proud to be Hornets. We're glad to be associated with you, and we're looking forward to what you're going to be doing in the future. In closing, I'd like to talk about this story. I've probably used it before, but it's just a key story about perspective. It's a story about a group of stonemasons, and someone walks by and sees these stonemasons working. And the person goes up to the first stonemason and says, "What are you doing?" And the stonemason says, "Well, I'm laying bricks." And the person continues on and speaks to the next stonemason and says, "What are you doing?" And the stonemason says, I'm building a wall." And he continues to walk on and speaks to this third stonemason. This stonemason says, when he asks him what he was doing, he says, "I'm creating a cathedral." And ultimately, that's what we're thinking about in terms of your work. We need you to take the knowledge, the excellence, the experience, the care forward into the world. We need young people like you to make a difference in the future and to be taking care of the world around us. So we want you to build those cathedrals. Thanks for your excellence. Appreciate your time, and go forward and do good work, Hornets.
Yay to our National Merit semifinalists and commended students. And I know it's in our consent agenda, but I just wanted to point out for the public who might not actually read through all of the documents in our board packet that we had 25 semifinalists and 22 commended students for one of the highest number of National Merit semifinalists and commended students. And considering the school year that these students have had last year and this year, I just think it's a huge honor both for these students, their families, and the teachers. So I just wanted to say congratulations to all of them, and also note that one of the students is the daughter of one of our board members. So congratulations, Lenny, and to your family as well. So yay to all of these students. It's a great thing that we have here. So, okay. We're going to move on now to hearings from members of the public. And we have John Tope here to read emails. The board received over 200 emails in the last week in response to our emergency meetings and related issues. And since we can't read aloud all of the emails we received, I reviewed and summarized all the community feedback, and I'm providing the community with samples of the public input. All emails being read have been approved by the individuals who wrote them to the board. By far, the most emails we received were from parents who did not approve of moving to distance learning, especially grades K-2. So John, would you please read the first email that you have?
Yes, Chair Allenberg. First email reads, "Hello, school board. I was not going to partake in the pile of emails you're inevitably receiving. However, as I continue to teach my kids to advocate for themselves, I need to do the same on behalf of my family. First, my sincerest thanks for all your time, comments, energy, and compassion on Tuesday evening. You're in an unenviable position, and I appreciate how hard you all are working to make it through a crappy situation. I have 3 kids, 5th, 2nd, and kindergarten, all at Countryside. We have the best school, the best teachers, the best principal. Hybrid is hard, but I have no complaints. The teachers have done an amazing job. I have a kid in advanced academics for reading, math, 2 in speech, 1 in orchestra. So we are all are well versed in online learning already, and we make it all work. My husband and I both have jobs, although I have some flexibility. Again, we make it work. I understand that middle and high school need to be distance learning for a while. Quite frankly, I'm surprised they made it as long as they did, especially when I see the older kids out together. However, our youngest learners really need school. In focusing on K2, these kids are most at risk of falling behind. They're learning how to learn, learning how to read, learning social skills. These cannot be taught on a computer. Second graders are still only 7 years old. From social contact with peers, they need that connection. We have not had community spread in the schools. Elementary schools have done really well. Let them continue. Leave K2 in school. They need that day. Not half days, where the day is over by the time it begins, where cleaning and busing would make it absurdly complicated. They need full days. I'd rather see K2 keep school time 2 days a week than half days. But ideally, things stay as they have been for those kids. Let them stay in school a while longer. Let them keep learning with their teacher, with their peers. At our last PTO meeting, our principal shared that the one thing she keeps hearing from kids about their favorite thing at school is being with their friends. Masks aren't preventing friendships and connections. They crave this time together. Please let K2 stay in school. Please keep trying. With immense gratitude, Becky Peterson.
Thank you, John. We also had some emails from parents expressing concern about having kids in school. So, John, could you please read that email?
That would be email number 2, Chair Ellenberg?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, school board. I'm writing to you about my concern over the current COVID spike we are seeing statewide at the moment. The official stats from MDH for school model guidance are woefully slow compared to the current situation. I've been very impressed with our district's management and communication since the beginning of the year, and our family has felt safe in the hybrid model so far. I've included a link for a website from a biostatistician at the U of M's School of Public Health that I have found useful. I'm sure you get more information than I do, but that app has one Edina zip code at 48.8 cases positive per 10,000 and Hennepin County at 61 cases positive per 10,000. I know the last district communication spoke to new guidance to look at the local level and not just the county, but I strongly believe that the best decision is to consider the appropriate model based on the worst zip code stats locally, which will likely be above 50 cases positive per 10,000 by the time school starts tomorrow morning. I've also heard numerous reports that the earliest people are able to schedule testing right now as late as Wednesday afternoon this week. It's not good. I am very afraid that many of my neighbors and my children's classmates are not taking appropriate precautions to self-quarantine, mask, or social distance responsibly right now. The good weather this week, Halloween, and MEA recently all encouraged some people to make irresponsible choices. We need to accept this reality and be proactive now about what we know is coming in the next few weeks. Please be assertive leaders and keep us safe. Many people will not make the right choices unless they are required to. Please consider moving the district fully to distance learning as soon as possible until we have a better testing access and safer staff. Don't wait for it to be worse. I want my children to be at school, but more than that, I want their teachers and their classmates' families to stay healthy. We are at a critical decision point. Thank you, Tara Young.
Thank you, John. We also received multiple emails from teachers expressing concerns about their safety and their colleagues' safety. And so, John, could you read the next 2 emails?
Yes, Chair Ellenberg. The next email starts with Dr. Schwartz and members of the Edina School Board. My name is Anna Jankowski, and I am an 8th grade language arts teacher at Southview Middle School. I am writing to ask that you move all Edina public secondary schools to distance learning effective immediately. I have served in this district for over 10 years and have never experienced the level of stress that the 2020-2021 academic year has brought. I have rebuilt every single lesson in my curriculum with new technology tools, multiple new modes of daily feedback for all 150 plus of my students, new attempts at engagement for both students online and in person simultaneously, and new ways to build community through a screen and while wearing a mask and distancing at school. I have been averaging 60 to 70 hours of work per week. Many of my colleagues have done the same. I do all this because that's what I do. I am an educator. I am used to giving my all because being a teacher is part of who I am and not just what I do for a career. But giving my all during a pandemic has a whole new meaning, especially with the rapidly increasing cases of coronavirus in Minnesota and Hennepin County. This year, I am being forced to make sacrifices that have also become physical, emotional, and mental sacrifices from my partner, my friends, my parents, and my extended family. I have never before felt so expendable. When I chat with my students at school, I hear about their sports tournament last weekend, or about their Halloween party, their homecoming celebration, their family vacation, their sleepover, or their most recent extended family celebration. I see them greet their friends in the hallways with a hug and walk shoulder to shoulder to their next class, share snacks as they leave the cafeteria, and pull their masks away from their face to chat. Meanwhile, my family masks every time we are around anyone from outside of our household. Take extra care with hygiene and high-touch surfaces in our house. Do not see our friends and extended family. All as the cases in Hennepin County are reaching 73.3 cases per 10,000 with no articulated plan from the district. In short, my family and I must stay vigilant and distant because I don't have full control over my risk of exposure at work. The health and safety of my family and me is in the hands of my students and their families, many of whom do not seem to care or even think this virus is real. As you make decisions about our school models, remember that your stakeholders are not just the students and families that attend Edina Public Schools. Your decisions impact the mental health and physical safety of every person connected to every Edina Public School employee. The lack of a plan in Edina is deafening, considering that the districts around us have articulated plans. I will continue to do my job according to the contract and to do it to the standard that I have served this community for over a decade. Please do your job in making sure that your decisions respect the safety and needs of all Edina Public Schools stakeholders. Sincerely, Anna Jankowski. The next email is from Patricia Schofield. She writes, after speaking with colleagues, friends, and family, I was asked to put together an email to share our feelings. We are wondering when and how did you decide, we do not have a problem being there to support the students. We just don't understand the logic behind the decision. If it's not a safe environment for the majority, why is it safe for the select few? If we are going to be in person supporting students while majority of staff and students will be at home distance learning, maybe we should be compensated for it. I personally lost 10 hours this year that I am contracted for, which is a lot of lost money. Don't get me wrong, we are grateful to have jobs and love what we do. I can say that I am glad that my children are not school age anymore because I would want them in school learning.
We also heard from multiple teachers that were in favor of staying in person and wanted to teach, but they weren't comfortable having their emails read in the public. But I did wanted to note that. We received some emails from parents of special education students and have the following email to share. Sorry.
Sure. This email is from Rebecca Schwartz. She writes, to the school board, I am devastated that there is an abrupt move back to distance learning, which was a horrible experience for us last spring. I implore you to reconsider your cutoff at allowing K-2 to continue in school and no others. Why not third grade? Why not fourth? Being home without support puts many children and parents in more immediate danger than COVID-19. In addition, distance learning has been terrible for my child. Your erratic schedule changes have made it impossible to have a solid plan for more than a week or two at a time, and my child is suffering, while I now have to essentially pay for private supervision to keep him in public school. He desperately needs an exception that will allow him to have in-person school, but it will be several weeks to find out if that's even a consideration. As a single mom, you put me in the awful position of having to find and fund full-time help at home with almost no notice, and then no clear understanding of what services we should expect. If you allow partial in-person services, how should he get to and from school while I work? If you allow something else, it will be an abrupt change again in a few weeks from now. In truth, I think special needs children are no longer receiving the free and fair education they are promised.
Thank you, John.
Unsupervised. I urge you to consider your decision. Sincerely, Rebecca Schwartz.
Thank you, John. We've received emails both in support of continuing athletics and activities and wanting the district to cancel athletics and activities. So if you could read the next two emails, John, that'd be great.
Sure. The next email reads, Dear Edina School Board members, I write to you as a concerned father and medical professional who has seen firsthand the health risks that COVID poses to our children. I have 3 boys who attend Edina schools, 2nd, 5th at Highlands, 7th at Southview, and work as a pediatric cardiac intensivist at the University of Minnesota Masonic Children's Hospital. I watched most of the board meeting last night and was impressed by the depth and thoughtfulness of the board members as you considered these very difficult decisions. I was encouraged by the focus to prioritize in-person learning for the early elementary age student. This is not just because I have a 2nd grader, but because I believe K2 are some of the most formative years, and the K2 students will easily fall behind in a distance learning model. I would like to provide my thoughts on the extracurricular activities, sports in particular, that the board discussed with regard to their use of Edina Public School facilities. I agree with Activities Director Stein's comments that if we don't provide extracurricular outlets for the students, that they will find other, potentially less safe, avenues to play their sports. However, there should be a balance between providing a safe outlet for our kids and allowing facility access to sports associations without fully understanding the risks to our youth and the community as a whole. Basketball is considered one of the highest risk sports, and traveling to play teams outside of your community greatly increases the risk of COVID transmission and spread. My wife and I allowed our 10-year-old son to sign up for travel basketball this year because he loves the sport and has been practicing all summer with dreams of making the A team. We are hopeful that if there was increased community spread of COVID, the association would find safer, creative ways to participate, i.e. local scrimmages, 3-on-3 tournaments, practices without tournaments, but that has not been the case. We have decided not to allow our son to participate in the tournament this weekend, which includes over 12 teams from the metro area and allows up to 64 people, including 32 spectators on each court. Other than the Edina Gators swim team, which in my opinion has done an excellent job providing a safe environment for their athletes, I cannot speak to the other sports associations that are using the Edina school facilities. I urge the board to consider all of the implications and risks that these extracurricular activities entail rather than providing a blanket approval for use of all the facility. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the Minnesota Department of Education recommends for the Safe Learning Plan for 2020-2021 a localized data-driven approach that if the secondary learning model requires distance learning due to COVID spread, then there is to be no in-person participation in practices or competition. See attached screenshot from Minnesota State High School. Additionally, one of the board members asked about a color-coded chart indicating the risk levels of youth sport. I was unable to find anything on the MDH or MSHSL websites, but attached a graphic from the Illinois Department of Health. It should be noted that Illinois has decided that due to the community of COVID spread, which is currently less, allow no contact practices. Thank you for your service to our community and for your tireless commitment to our children's education and safety. Kind regards, Brian Joy. The next email reads, hello, school board. Thank you for all of your endless hard work during this awful time. I've been watching the board meetings and appreciate the effort by the board. I just want to put my 2 cents out there, having a 6th, 8th, and 10th grader at Southview and the high school who are all in sports and activities. I truly see a 180 transformation to their spirit, mood, and behavior when they are home all day and then leave for hockey, dance, and skateboarding, all masked. They come home a different kid. Huge smiles, laughter, joy, and energy for life that they didn't have being home, stuck on a computer for hours at a time. Kids need their community involvement, whatever that may be for that child. I am sure you all know this if you are a parent. From my understanding, the schools are going all virtual mainly due to lack of teaching staff. This isn't the case in sports and activities. Troy Stein said it, numbers have been very low. The athletics team does an amazing job keeping these kids safe. I saw it with my daughter training all summer with the Edina dance team in pods of 8 out of 48 girls to this fall during Hornets with not one case of COVID. They ran a tight ship. Activity can be traced, keeping them going. As Julie said, if we take this away from the students, they will go rogue. I saw it all spring with my middle son. Please keep the activities and sports going in Edina. If you don't, they will go elsewhere and find other outlets. Taking away in-person classroom time and sports/activities is detrimental to their mental and physical health. Thank you for your time, Monica and Phil Miro.
Thank you, John. Finally, I just wanted to mention that we received emails for many topics, including the following: parents concerned about teachers and their health, expressing a want for better communication from the district, concerns about interventions for non-readers, concerned about the number of days off with the shift to distance learning, concerns about EBA students having days off, concerns specific to the French immersion program. And we also received some emails with questions about data and parents contributing their own data to us. So I wanted to summarize the emails that we have received. I also wanted to thank everyone who's given their input and their engagement with our district during this challenging time. We're now going to move on to our consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We will now vote by roll call to approve the consent agenda.
Hallenberg,
Aye.
Fox, Matt, Fox.
I think he might be stuck.
It looks like he's like,
I'll come back.
Okay.
I'll come back to him. Green,
aye.
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Michelson,
Aye.
Shaw,
Aye.
Roland Friedman.
Aye.
I don't know what you'd like me to do about Matt.
You've got a majority.
Call them again. I think.
Yeah, you have a majority. Oh, wait.
Are you back, Matt? Oh, he
No,
left.
we have a majority though, so.
There he is back.
Oh,
Still
Matt,
aye.
Did you want to vote for the consent agenda?
Yeah, aye again. Triple aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
great. The consent agenda is approved. Okay, we have 3 items up for discussion, and the first is the technology levy update. We have both Director of Business Services, John Tope, and Director of District Media and Technology Services, Steve Buettner, here to present this to us. Steve, you're on mute.
Steve, you
Thank
There
you.
we go.
Good evening, Chair Ollenberg, Superintendent Dr. Schwartz, and other board members. Tonight, I just want to take a moment to provide a couple of updates on our planning around the technology levy. And with that, I will share my screen and provide the slide deck. There isn't major change to this, but there are a couple of items I wanted to bring forth. Again, just for review, the current technology levy expires in 2021. Currently, it is at roughly $6.5 million a year. And really, the technology levy supports all aspects of our organization. Provides the iPads that our kindergartners will be using for distance learning, the Chromebooks that our middle and high school students and elementary students use, the technology that our teachers use, but it also does things like provide additional security in our buildings, provides the management of our heating and air conditioning system. It provides a lot of support by staff to support the use of technology in our organization. If you looked at that split up in a pie chart, you'd see that that money is divvied up roughly according to this pie chart, with the largest portion being, again, staffing and professional development. And I want to point out what it looks like compared with our neighbors. And we're just in the middle of the road on our spending in the technology levy, around $6.5 million a year. And I want to point out that the slide that you received in your board packet was off. It was had per pupil, and that wasn't correct. It's the annualized spending for the technology levy. But as we start thinking about the expiration of our current technology levy, we must need to begin thinking about the future of technology in Edina Public Schools and the importance of this technology funding and the role of technology in our organization. I like to say that what we want to start thinking about and we want to continue to do is continue that idea of excellence in Edina Public Schools. And we want to make sure that we continue that excellence by using technology, not when it's just a tool, but it's the best tool to fit our teachers and our students, as well as making sure that we have the proper technology for our students and our staff and our organization. Again, I'll remind you that that technology, this funding doesn't just purchase the technology devices, but it also purchases the support in the form of staffing, in the form of staff, software, and networking and other infrastructure in the organization. And increasingly, our software that we purchase is used for instructional basis. Indeed, 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been common for us to look at a curricular adoption in an all-digital format. We would be still thinking about the textbooks. In the last 5 or so years, we've seen a shift where we've seen both the textbook but also digital resources. And now what we're seeing is increasingly the digital resource is the prominent aspect of the curricular material. It is the online textbook. It is the online material. It's the rich manipulatives that our teachers and our students use. And it's the integration with our learning management system that's important. Doesn't mean that our textbooks go away. And indeed, we'll always have a role for textbooks. But we are seeing that prominence is in that digital format with an analog textbook to come with it. If we looked at our future spending, we're looking at around $7 million a year, so a roughly $500,000 increase. That is for the idea of this curricular material or for resources, digital software subscriptions and resources that are aligned to our instructional practices. It also is to cover the cost of providing a more robust assistive technology. And so last time we discussed this, we talked a little bit about the role of technology in special services and student support services. I had an opportunity to talk with Jeff Jorgensen, the department lead there, and we do think it's important that we do provide support there. We currently work very closely with that department, and we think that we want to increase that role by bringing on additional assistive technology resources for that area. If you look at the breakdown of the spending by category, you'll see that it continues to be providing software, hardware, and this idea of technology information support services in the form of how do we support the technology that we have, how do we leverage and use the technology that we use. That's very much a people concentrated or people-centric role in our organization. We looked at the financial impact that this would have. You'll see that we would be under the $7 million levy, and so that it would be closer to $18 for a $300,000 house a year increase. $600,000 it would be under $40, and for a $900,000 house it would be under $64 increase a year. Last time we talked about key dates, and I shared with you some potential election dates: February 9th, May 11th, and November 2nd. After talking with the board and talking with administration, our recommendation is we move ahead with the May 11th election day. The timeline would be we would continue to have planning around the referendum this fall. In January, we'd have a board discussion to finalize the levy referendum. By February 8th would be the last day we could adopt that resolution. And then we would communicate that with our community with an election on May 11th. And I'll pause there and answer any questions that the board might have at this time.
Yeah, I'll turn it back over to the board and just see if there are questions or comments from board members.
Steve, I can jump in with some questions and observations right away. As our earlier presentation highlighted, technology has a life cycle of roughly 3 years, and so much of our technology has to be renewed within that 3-year cycle. So we're faced with dealing with a tech levy. So that's all well understood, and we're keeping abreast of things, and that audit basically said that, and you're to be credited for a good bit of that. And again, congratulations on your award that Ellen pointed out. My concern is I understand that we're now at about $6.5 million per year, and we're now looking at asking for $7 million a year. So that's basically a 7% increase. And I'm concerned about that just because I don't like having our costs inching up a little bit here, a little bit there, and pretty soon you've got some significant increases. Property taxes are a concern for many residents in Edina. And then we had a presentation with John Tope going through our anticipated budget shortfall. So in light of that, I'm a little concerned that we're going to be asking for more. And I won't be really concerned if this $500,000 would be offset by savings elsewhere. So I think that's my general question. And then I'm also kind of wondering, we don't have a breakout year-over-year comparison. Are some of our budget areas jumping up? I think you may have mentioned assistive technology. So that's my secondary question. But my primary question is, why are we going up $500,000 in this era of belt tightening?
Thank you for that question. You also, earlier this evening, you heard from the COSIN peer review, and one of their recommendations was understanding the costs and making sure that they are aligned to the organization properly in the right budgets. A large component of that cost is the software and the instructional component of the technology licenses around software that we use in the classroom. And so that has been something that has been creeping up. And so I've worked very closely with the Director of Teaching and Learning, also the Director of Student Support Services, to identify where are those software applications that we've been purchasing in those groups as silos, to quantify what the cost is for those curricular adoptions and those other softwares, and to bring those into the technology levy where they belong so they can be managed properly. You'll see that increase, or over $400,000 of the proposed increase in the tech levy, is exactly that. It is the software licenses that we will need going forward to support our instructional and student support services.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Director Buettner, but haven't we over time actually been able to help our budget shortfall from our general fund actually leveraging our technology levy? And so it's actually a tool we can utilize from a district perspective to help us balance our budget, where you just use a perfect example of software licensing. But we can also look at percentage of salary that people use from a technology perspective and make sure that really everything that we utilize in our district from a technology perspective, we can use the technology levy for. And it's one place that we can actually try to help us with some of that deficit that we do have, Owen. So I think that's one of the reasons that it's actually a benefit to the district to increase that levy amount.
Yeah, that's a great point, and maybe I'll have John Tope speak to this. But we absolutely follow the rule and the letter of the technology levy, which means that we can use this funding when we are to pay for staff in the management, the maintenance, and the access to data and assessment. And so we've looked at our organization and we looked at our staffing to identify, is there staff that have a percentage or are doing some work that could be coded to the technology levy? And where we see that that is permissible, we have been shifting some of their funding from the general fund or other funds into the technology levy where appropriate. I don't know, John, if you want to add to that at all.
I would. Chair Allenberg, that's exactly correct. We are looking at what Director Buettner said as far as the amount of time that management and administrative staff are spending on technology and actually moving some of those costs from the general fund into the tech levy as appropriate and as allowable. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the technology purchases for textbooks. Some of those dollars have been budgeted in our operating capital fund previously. So if there is some relief by charging those because they're now becoming software, that would give us some more flexibility in the operating capital fund, which, if the board recalls, we just transferred $2 million to our general fund unassigned fund balance so that we could get through this year and the next year without making too much reduction. So just to answer Director Michelson's question, it gives us flexibility by asking for the additional $500,000. That's one reason. And the other reason is it puts the expenses in the technology area where we are expensing those right now and into the future, because technology is changing and textbooks aren't books anymore, like Director Buettner said.
Well, a couple thoughts is I looked at my annual property tax statement that came on Friday or Saturday, and my Edina school district portion did go down. And so in some sense, we're sitting well regarding community perception, and Matt has spoken to that. So that's a good thing. A levy is a sales effort, and to the extent that we can communicate to the community that this will somehow net out to something budget neutral, or that these funds are coming from maybe teaching and learning and textbooks, I think that would make the levy have a better chance of succeeding. The community as a whole is, just like everybody else is experiencing belt tightening, and so they may not be too excited about an increase. So I think we have to be mindful of the public perception. So if we could have that kind of information, I think that would aid the sales effort. So anyway, I had a follow-on observation of just forgetting what it is right now. I'll come back to that later. So I can pass it on to somebody else, Erica.
So Owen, we will be working with Decision Resources to do a survey between now and I think January is what we have set. We'll assess that question that you're asking.
Good, thank you.
Matt?
Yes. Thank you, Steve, for the presentation and all the work behind this. Just wanted to make either 5 or 6 points, but I'll make them quickly. The first one is this step up of, as Owen quoted, 7%. This is one time and then it stays static, right? Or is it a 7% increase every time, every year?
No,
It is one time, correct. And over how many years?
It's a 10-year levy, but it is, and John can explain it. It is tied towards property values, and so the impact is correlated with the city of Edina residential property values.
Correct. But the point I'm making, thank you, Steve and John, I know the answer to this basically. The point is that it's not 7% every year for 10 years. It's not a 49% increase. So, Owen, as you think about inflation in an annualized basis and the property values going up, it's not like your house goes up 2 to 4%. This goes up 7. The next year again, 7. The next year again, 7. You can stretch this out. So it's actually not that kind of an increase. It's apples for oranges. So that'll be a very important point, as you said, to educate the community on, to understand the percentage increase versus the real increase. Second point is, I do want people to understand these monies go towards security and infrastructure. That's something that I hold very important for our children across the buildings, across any kind of a time. I don't want to be an alarmist. There were a lot of issues. We were getting emails from people about our defense systems for school intrusions prior to COVID. They haven't happened during COVID, but those were concerns. These kinds of things combat that. The third thing is we talk about equity and things for all kinds of children, especially things like reading, which has been a big focus for some people on this board. Not having the computers, the access, the wireless, the learning tools will affect what people on this board have said is a strategic imperative. So the tech levy is incrementally important, but critical for those additional on the fringe students. The fourth one that I just wrote down the past few minutes is, as Owen, as you said, we also need to educate that the EPS total percentage-wise has gone down on your tech levy balance, also due to the bond refinancing. So we could say that the bond refinancing amount of money that we saved this year cut into at least a third of the incremental levy increase. That's apples for apples. And then the fifth one is competitiveness. If you look at the chart we just saw, where we landed compared to Minnetonka and others that we want to compete with, in order to compete and attract students, I would argue that the tech levy will enable us to retain or attract more students than the amount that people would not pay in their overall interest rates on their homes, therefore not having the property values go down and additional levies being needed. And the sixth item is, if you looked at 3.5% or 3% versus 7% on a plus $750,000 home, that's $35 a year. I promise you, if we do not approve a levy in this range of $6 to $7 million, then your house will go down by $35 a year. And we will not be able to provide services for competitiveness, for overall equity, for overall safety and security, and for overall ability to make sure that those learning and initial strategic imperatives we need and desire have been properly allocated. So I've gone through this from a budgetary basis, and those are 6 key points that I just wrote down a minute ago. So hopefully those were coherent because I went kind of quick. But I mean, it can be a sales thing. We've never had a problem passing a tech levy in Edina because we've done a good job explaining it. So it's on us to do a good job explaining that. But there's 6 talking points that if I saw on a tear sheet would be a pretty quick yes for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, our board member Fox. I'd just like to provide a little bit more context to what you said. Some of these curricular materials that we're talking about are the Sunday curriculum, the Hill Wrap software. So those are electronic now. They're being delivered electronically. And so as we talk about reading intervention, dyslexia programming and things like that, those are part of that $400,000 increase that we're talking about. It's not all of it, but it is a portion of it. And so just to provide context to that is indeed the software and the curricular materials that we're talking about and that this board has put importance on.
Steve, is there specific information or feedback you need from the board tonight?
I think the direction of the May board election is something that we would want to know so that we can begin planning and making sure that we hit all our deliverables to make sure that that's
Okay,
already
so the timing of the election?
correct.
Okay, yeah, Lenny?
So I support what you're requesting, Steve, and I support the May proposed date.
So if board members, if you have other feedback, that's obviously fine, but if you could, when you're speaking, mention the timing of the election, that would be great.
Because I already went, I'll just quickly say I also support what Steve asked for in the timing.
Okay. Janie?
Yeah, Steve, I'm going to jump in and say I do support that. And has it been mentioned before? I looked back at my notes and I couldn't find it. What the cost is of that election, because it is a single issue ballot then?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Go ahead,
Either
John.
one.
Edina City Clerk, what the estimate was for an election, which we have to bear all the costs for, being it's run only by us. It's about $50,000 to $54,000.
Okay. And do you have that in the budget? I'm hoping.
Yes.
Where does that come out of? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ellen or Julie? Do you
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
I have two, I have a question. So we just heard, had a great analysis in the work session about technology and really looking at the landscape. And I imagine looking back 10 years ago, how different it is now, which I actually think an increase of $500,000 is remarkable with the difference in the landscape. To me, it doesn't seem like it even matches up. So my question is, from the feedback that we just got, do you see any adjustments to this number based on any of the feedback from the consultants that we worked with?
That's a great question. And you also heard from those consultants that the ability to look into a crystal ball in terms of technology past 3 years is very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so what I've done is I've looked back 10 years. So I've looked at this technology levy, looked at areas where we've done spending, where I project where we're going to see increases or not. And that's what I've done is I've tried to amortize this idea out over 10 years. I think it's accurate. So as you think about things like projection systems and networking, we'll probably have to upgrade our networking twice. So every 5 years, you do it twice. And so I know what that historical money is, and it hasn't changed significantly. So I've done that. Also, when you look at technology in the hands of our students and our staff, those things have been rather consistent as well. And we've been able to look at the software and the curricular materials, the licensing for curricular materials, and we think we're accurate on that. So what I'd say is that I feel fairly confident that I'm accurately projecting what it will be that we purchase will absolutely be something different. And so I can guarantee you that in 5 years, when we talk about what is the next digital classroom standard, it won't be what we purchased this year, but it will be something that will be used for digital classroom standard. It'll be roughly the same amount of money.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. My question about the timing. So there's, Janie, that was a good question about the cost. Is there a cost if we were to do it in November to the district, or zero cost?
The cost for doing it during the general election, Director Green, would be split out amongst the city, county, and the school district. Those costs for the total cost of the election would be split out. So it would be embedded in that number.
Okay. So there is some cost, not as much.
Right. Well, for example, the last general election that we shared in the cost with City of Edina and Hennepin County cost us, I think it was, and I have the number right here if you just bear with me, $109,534. That was during a general election. That was on 11/5 of 19, that election. It was a school board election.
Okay. Okay. It's just helpful to say, I just wanted to do a comparison, but I'm in support of the recommendation of the May 11th timing. I think that makes a lot of sense and gives us a little bit of breathing room to give community our community the information that they need, so they feel very confident in what we're asking them to vote on, and then also November as a emergency backup if we were to need it. So those are my thoughts. Thank you. Nice work.
Ellen?
Yeah, I just have a couple thoughts. One, I'd like to just state that the pandemic has made it abundantly clear that our district's ability to fulfill our mission to our students and community is dependent on our technology infrastructure, teacher training, software, hardware, and everything that the Tech Levy supports. This also includes the importance of adding to our cybersecurity for protecting student privacy, which is a topic we discussed at the work session just an hour ago. Maintenance and enhancement of all of these features are critically important to our ongoing function, both during the pandemic and into the post-pandemic future. I encourage the administration to create a campaign to successfully pass this essential levy. And my thoughts about when this happens, speaking of our work session, we heard the budgetary needs that our district is under. And I know that we're one of the few districts that still hold standalone elections for these types of things. Budget cuts will hurt our ability to program. And I would like the board to consider holding this levy election on November 2nd instead of May 11th. This year is going to be a school board election, and it is during that type of campaigning that I think it would be a good way to get the word out to all of our voters throughout the community about the dire need to pass this levy. So I would like them to consider the other date of November 2nd, both budgetary reasons and the ability to get the word out. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. When do you need the final word on the date if you're going to do May?
We would need to have you vote on that in December, because I think we have to have that. We'll have to call for the election, I think, in February. Is that right, Steve? I think is what the, yeah.
Okay.
So we would just need to know the date so we can plan for the, make the plan for putting the referendum in front of you in February.
Okay. I think we have majority, unless anyone wants to change their mind. I think we have the majority that support the May timeframe with November as a backup. Is that correct?
I think, Erica, can I jump in for just a quick second?
Yep.
I think you might just be shifting here a little bit. Building on Janie and Julie's recent questions. So I'm hearing that it cost us $50,000 to do it in May. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
Okay. And then did I hear that our contribution in last fall school board election was $100,000?
Chair Allenberg, Director Michelson, the amount for the school board meeting, school board election, on 11/5/19, the cost for Edina School District was $109,000. I believe we'll be running another school board election on November 2nd of 21, if that's correct.
Yes.
And so that school board election plus the question that will be on the ballot for the tech levy, if it were to be run on November 2nd, would cause that number to probably be somewhat higher. Hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'm just looking for the net. How much money would we save by having it in November as opposed to May?
I have not got the answer to that question. I could contact Sharon Allison at the City of Edina and see if she can interpolate that number and have that available for you.
Well, I guess given your presentation earlier tonight, John, and how tight we are financially, I think I'm more comfortable with the November 2nd time. So, Eric, I don't know if that shifts anything, so.
I don't think it does. I think Janie, Matt, Lenny, myself, and Julie all support a May timeframe.
Okay.
So Erica, I think we have to have a vote on this, just to have the board approve that date. So we would put this on the December action.
Okay.
Can I just say sorry.
I was just going to add that in the climate we're in with the pandemic, it does give us a second opportunity if we do a vote in May, that we can go forward in a second vote in November. If we don't pass it in November, then that's just a one time. So it gives us more information if we don't pass it in May.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to highlight, John, is that there's a pretty big risk by waiting till November. And the cost of that risk, I think, would far exceed any cost savings by pushing it to November. That's my opinion. I don't think it's worth the risk for us right now.
Yeah, and this is Matt. We've done this in the past where we've done the surveys ahead of time. We've had things come through. We've learned from the community. If you remember the levy that we did during the last school board election, we took feedback and then we changed the rate of increase of the levy because we did that to focus on what we needed. It is not about the cost of the election. It is about getting the resources that Ellen, you just said are critical for the community, and Owen, you have vied for over and over again for people that have learning disabilities. This is not something to mess with and leave to next November. It is just a bad idea.
So I think we have the answer for now. And since we're going to vote on December, people can vote what they want to do, and then we'll go from there.
Chair Allenberg?
Yes.
Just wanted to make a comment from Director Michelson's first couple statements where he said he was looking at his property taxes and seeing an actual decrease in the school district portion of the taxes for this upcoming 2021 year. That pleases me because our overall school levy, if you recall, is going to be about a 2.76% increase. So if Director Michelson's taxes are going down, what that tells me is our tax base is going up higher.
Maybe we
So did ours. Ours did too.
So we got a bigger tax base and we're spreading that out over a bigger tax base. So that is really good news.
Hopefully the tax collector isn't watching because they might reassess your home.
No.
Eric, can I clarify one comment that was made about the district's role in the effort to get this elected? And I don't know if I misunderstood, Ellen, your comment about that you were hoping that the district would put a campaign forward to get this passed. But my understanding is the district is not allowed to engage in any yes or no vote on this levy. Is that correct?
That's correct. So
okay, I just want to make sure that we have community members watching that the district actually doesn't run the campaign.
we provide the information,
right,
and whoever wants to help out with the campaign will run that campaign.
Okay, great. I just want to
Great
clarify that.
clarification. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Director Buettner and Director Tope, for the information. The next two agenda items are policy reviews, and I will turn it over to our policy chair, Owen Michelson.
All right. Okay. We have under rapid review, policy 624. This regards personnel licensing status. We're going through the 400 series, you may remember, for this year. And we're just proposing that we pass this. We have some small updates. We have to be more accurate in how we describe the Department of Education's actually professional educator licensing standard. And then we have language clarification. So very small changes. So we would recommend that we pass this. And so any comments, questions about that? Lenny's saying no. Okay. Let's move on past that then. Thank you, Lenny, for being so demonstrative. Then we have two items for discussion. Two policies, starting off with 406. Policy 406 pertains to public and private personnel data. We have a lot of language changes here. Much of this is consolidation and simplification, in a word, compressing much of the language here. And much of what is covered here is already in the Minnesota Data Practices Act. And so in some sense, this is redundant. We had a good discussion about this in the policy committee with Julie and Erica and Nikki. And a point of principle came up, and that is, if this is largely covered by statute, then why do we even need it? Because we've talked about rescinding policies that are completely redundant, and so we actually create for a more complex policy structure. This is one in which I think we basically felt that in reducing the language, we would make it more simple, and it then bears a communication responsibility. It actually communicates in a succinct way to our district stakeholders what our public and private personnel data practices are. So that is my basic introductory comments about this. When we go into some detail, Nikki Tusher is giving us a lot of guidance on this. Of course, as our HR director, she has some informed opinions. So I turn it open to the board for discussion.
Does anyone have any comments on these two? No?
No comments about either one.
Great.
Okay,
All right.
Okay,
Nice
so
job.
I guess we move on. The second one was policy 423. This is student relationships. We're just basically, it's again, language cleanup, and we're making two small substantive changes. We're including volunteers in this, this policy would be applicable to, and we're broadening it to also include in being aware that undesirable behavior could discredit more than just the district, but the students too. So those are the only substantive changes, and with that, we could just move on unless there's discussion in either one of these.
It doesn't look like there are questions or comments on this either. So we can go ahead and move to our action items. So first we have Teaching and Learning Director Jody.
Erica, open enrollment and benefits, wasn't that going to be discussion? We're taking that off of.
That'll be on action.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, excuse me.
No problem. Teaching and Learning Director Jody D. St. Hubert is here with our science curriculum approval. Do I have a motion to approve ratifying the Amplify or approving the Amplify Science curriculum for grades 6 to 8?
Oh. So moved.
Second.
Was there a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, great. Okay, so do you have anything additional that you wanted to present to us or review before I ask board members if they have questions?
I don't. Thank you, Chair Allenberg and Superintendent Schwartz and board members. The report is as it was when it was presented earlier in November, and I don't have any additions to add.
Great, thank you. Board members, do you have any questions or comments before we vote on this agenda item?
I do, Chair Allenberg. I think I'm not enthusiastic about the curriculum change for two reasons. First of which I talked about last week. I'm excited about having Native American studies brought into science, and I think it sets a bad precedent. So that's one concern. The second, just has come upon me recently, we are in the midst of shifting to we're in the midst of a pandemic, and the teachers seem to have their plates full, and I'm a little concerned that a curriculum change mid-course here would be disruptive. So those are my thoughts, and I don't need any comment on unless anybody wants to.
I just wanted, Go ahead, Lenny.
No, the inclusion of the Native American information is by state dictate. That's not something we're adopting on our own, correct?
That is correct. It is by state dictate. So thank you for clarifying that. And the other component about shifting to a new curriculum, this would provide curriculum for the teachers, and it provides curriculum in a format that works both for distance learning, hybrid, and in person, I should say. They currently are using this and don't have another curriculum source to use if we do not adopt it at the time.
Are there any other questions or comments? Janie, did you have one? Or was that Julie? Sorry.
I was just going to make the comment that Lenny made. So.
Okay. Well, now vote by roll call to approve the Amplify Science curriculum.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Michelson,
Nay.
Shaw,
Aye.
Wallen Friedman.
Aye.
This Amplify Science curriculum is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now do I have a motion to approve policies 411, 412, 418, 419, 421, 622, and 808?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Owen?
These are 6 policies that we discussed last week, and pretty much everyone felt good about where they're at. And I don't have much more to say than that unless we would like to dive in on some more discussion.
Ellen?
Yeah, I actually would like to discuss both policy 418, alcohol and drug-free environment, and policy 808, naming. And I am sorry that I didn't ask these questions last month when these policies were first read to the board. I'd like to direct the board to look at policy 418. And I'm trying to understand why we are specifically excluding medical cannabis from allowable substances to be on EPS property. If a person has a medical condition that qualifies them to be prescribed medical cannabis, why would that be treated any differently than a prescription for another controlled substance? And there are rare conditions for which medical cannabis provides effective treatment that is not achievable with any other therapy. For example, control of seizures and complex epilepsy, appetite enhancement and pain control in certain conditions like cancer and chemotherapy can be managed with medical cannabis alone or in addition to other therapies. And why would the district single out this medically prescribed and legislatively approved therapy and prevent people from having it on EPS property? By making this single exception to all controlled substances, are we exposing ourselves to discrimination litigation?
Do you want to answer that, Nikki?
Of course. Thank you for the question, Director Jones. It's per statute, and so that's a statutory exclusion. I'm happy to send the statute your direction, but it's per statute, and MSBA actually reads the same way.
And that they make the one exception.
Nikki, wasn't it in policy committee? I think the key was that I understood it is that it's a phrase having a physician's prescription was involved. That
is also involved, and I'm sorry, I don't have the statute in front of me. Just because I wasn't prepared because it was for action versus for discussion, but I'm happy to send that to the board if we need to not move this forward. But I just don't have it in front of me right now. But I know MSBA has the same exclusion, and it is per statute.
I asked this last month, and you gave this answer because I mentioned that I've been in the epilepsy field for a long time and working on this, and I asked this exact question. That was your exact answer last month. Why is medical cannabis excluded? Because I've invested in companies that do that work for kids that have seizures. So we did this last month.
I believe the answer is if there's a physician's prescription, that's no issue.
But that's not the way the policy reads. The policy says even if you had a physician's prescription, it would not be okay. So,
No, because we struck out without a physician's prescription.
the way that it reads right now is that it reads, sorry. The exceptions is for this policy is a violation of this policy does not occur when a person brings into a district property for that person's own use a controlled substance, except medical cannabis, which has a currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, and the person has a healthcare provider's prescription for the substance. The person will comply with the relevant procedures of this policy. That's in section 4A.
I was able to find the statutory site. It's Minnesota statute sections 15223. And so that's one of the sites. I'll see if I can't find another one, but that's the preclusion component of what the MSBA revision was, and then therefore our as school district's revision was.
So maybe I'm not reading this correctly, but doesn't that say that a person can use medical cannabis when they have a prescription?
No. No, it's except for medical cannabis. It's all others. You could be on any kind of controlled substance with a prescription from according to this, with a prescription from a healthcare provider, except for medical cannabis.
Was the answer not because it's a federally illegal substance? That's what I thought the answer was last time I asked this.
Yeah, the state statute that Nikki just referenced says that does refer to not allowing medical use on school property or school buses.
So Lenny, is it your interpretation that this is fairly cut and dry, that our policy cannot contravene state statute?
Well, we can't.
So it's not my interpretation. So what I said was that I referenced the statute that Nikki referenced. I do believe that we're obligated to follow state law.
Okay, Ellen, how do you react to that?
I'm sorry about that. It just seems totally unfair for those people that need this for medical conditions. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
Ellen, I agree with you. It's just state statute.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so your objection is satisfied.
Yes.
Did you have
Okay,
another?
so the other, so that was my comment about that policy. I can move on to the policy 808.
Please do.
Okay.
Are we supposed to pull these out for discussion?
I don't.
Or we're
No.
No.
Okay.
That's consent, so we can't talk about it. So you're an 808?
808, and this is another one that we've already discussed, and sometimes I guess I need to hear it again. I'm looking at section B5A, and the way that this reads, it is when the district, that says termination by the district reserves the right at its sole discretion to terminate the naming rights without refund of consideration prior to the scheduled termination date, should it feel it is necessary to do so to avoid the district being brought into disrepute as determined by the district. And my concern is that in the discussions that we've had as a board, it was my understanding that we would have that right to terminate the naming just at our own discretion. And it didn't have to be just for the purpose of to avoid the district being brought into disrepute. So I would prefer to just end that sentence in A, termination by the district, to after instead of the comma, just to put prior to the scheduled termination date, period. So that we don't have any condition on what would make us, what would be okay to terminate the naming. I don't know.
Feelings from the rest of the board?
So I think if we're going, it depends if I can't even see where this is on this.
It's on page 4, 808-4. 808-4.
It's on the bottom of page 3, I'm seeing. 808-3.
Not on the bottom of 808-3, 808-4. 5, under 5, termination of specific naming agreements. It's actually in the policy twice. It's there and it's also at 808-6, the very last item in the policy.
It's on page 224.
Yeah, so doing that would essentially eliminate the agreement. Because what this policy contemplates is you entered into a naming agreement that has a termination date. If you don't want the donation, don't enter into the agreement. But once you enter into the agreement, it seems to me that we're bound by the agreement, subject to if it, puts the district in a bad light. So I think that the answer, Ellen, is just don't enter into the agreement. But it doesn't seem fair to say to somebody, you're donating X amount of money, we'll keep your name on it for 2 years, and then 1 week later, after the money comes in, goes, well, we've changed our mind, we're going to keep the money.
No, I'm saying that it means, so you are saying that for on page, it might make sense for 808-4, but perhaps not at 808-6? The very last item.
So I see 808-4. We get to -6.
So this is for all naming of all facilities. It's the very last item on the naming policy. And I would just take out to avoid the district being brought into disrepute. I would just take that out and put a period after any name.
So is that sentence necessary at all?
Yes, we do reserve the right to discontinue any name. And that's what I always understood the discussion has always been, is that we reserve the right to discontinue any name.
So that sentence then should apply to where there isn't an agreement. Because if there is an agreement, then we should be bound by the agreement. But where there is no agreement, your edit is fine.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm going to suggest we take this back to policy committee and don't try to edit it here.
Okay.
I'm in favor of that.
So let's do that to make sure that we are understanding which section we're talking about, as opposed to, so we don't vote on it.
That's good.
So Chair Allenberg, as a technicality, I might suggest that we vote no on the pending motion and then have another motion to approve every policy with the exclusion of 808.
And I apologize, my Wi-Fi stopped working for a second. So we have a pending motion to approve all of the policies. So we will have to vote, if you agree, we'll have to vote no for that pending motion. Or can I modify the motion to not include policy 808?
I think that the board as a whole could agree to the modification. Nikki, unless you've got a different Robert's rules. But I think that technically the board as a whole controls the motion once the discussion has started.
So are you guys okay if I modify the motion to approve all the policies other than 808?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yep.
Does delaying this policy, does that impact any logistics and operations of the district?
Good question. It may. I don't know that.
Okay.
Do you know if this is going to slow down something? I had the impression now that there was something accelerated about this.
Okay.
Did John speak to that?
John said it may.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, it may.
Okay, so then,
May I suggest, I understand the concern by Director Jones, but I'm not sure if the change itself changes the substance of the policy. So we could, a proposal I might have to continue to move this forward so it can be approved, so we have a process, is that maybe the board approves the policy as written, but we bring it back forward before the board with an amendment for discussion next time. And so that way we have a generalized process, is not to truncate what the other conversation going on, but that way we have a process in place for naming, if we're going to look at naming, knowing that we may have a small revision as suggested by Director Jones and talked about by Director Juan Freeman.
are you guys okay with that?
I think that's
I'm in favor of that.
That's a great idea.
Great idea.
Okay, why don't we do that, knowing that the policy committee that will take a look at 808 again to see if it needs to be revised. Okay, so we have this pending, or the standing motion to approve all of the policies that were listed before. So we will vote on by roll call to approve those.
Ellenberg,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Michelson,
Aye.
Shaw,
Aye.
Wallen Friedman,
Aye.
Okay, so policies 411, 412, 418, 419, 421, 622, and 808 are approved, and the policy committee will take a look back at 808 at the language that was brought up. Now, do I have a motion to approve the CES hourly employee guidebook?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So I'll turn it over, I guess, to John or Nikki, our HR director, to talk about this.
So, Nikki, do you want to take it? Just.
Sorry, my mute button all of a sudden my mute button suddenly disappeared low. So Director Burke and I bring this forward for approval. And what this is this is the employee guidebook. So it's different than a unionized group. It's a group of our employees. And this is the guidebook and appendix for the community ed service and hourly employees of Edina Public Schools. We bring it forward for approval tonight. And we want you to know that the hourly compensation schedules do remain similar to past years. There is one very change, and that has to do with our CES childcare teachers, but otherwise the compensation rates remain the same. And then the district's health insurance has a small increase of 2 to 6% depending on what selection. Know that this is a overall increase of less than 1% and within the parameters that the board has previously laid out to us. And also the community ed budget, because this is a community ed driven group. So Val and I can stand for any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Vicki, it seems reasonable to me. I would just, in the future, appreciate seeing this a little bit earlier. Read it in the board packet.
And I will take ownership of that, because it just came in earlier today, and because I was out, I didn't get to Sarah in time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Nikki, you said it's a 1% increase. Do you know the dollar amount? It's hard to know because of the number of people. Do you know a dollar amount?
And I defer, go ahead. I defer to Val on that.
Judging from the amount of people who are taking health insurance, dollar amount should be minimal. An exact amount, I don't know. It is in parameters. And so I apologize. I don't have the exact thousands of dollars, but it is, we did proportionality depending on how many staff were taking it.
And I just want to pop in just because right now Director Burke's groups are the rec leaders are relatively volatile, meaning we have a lot more of them or a lot less of them, depending on what's on the way that we're using them now with essential care and things like that. And so unlike a traditional costing where you have that easy number that's before the board, this isn't that type of a group that we can quantify that as easily because it really is dependent on how many, if we took the snapshot in time in February, that's what I like to call it, the snapshot in time in February. Right now, our community ed programs look nothing like they did in February. So it's not an apples to apples. And that's why we bring it forward saying that there aren't increases to the schedule itself, but just those really small percentage increases to health insurance. Director Burke, did I put that well?
You did, because we don't have the kind of yearly history that we would have typically. And so it is, I think you said that before.
Janie?
Yeah, I tried to go through the red line really quickly, Nikki, and just, can you just highlight, were there any changes in any other
I'm sorry, Director Shaw, you froze
additional
up on
benefits like vacation?
So I think
I'm going to try without camera. Can you?
I think she's just wondering, can you highlight, are there any major changes or main changes between the two contracts?
No, between the two guidebooks, there are not. One thing you'll see that we cleaned up, before it was an hourly, and so basically there's an hourly component of how we used to count up hours to see if people qualify for benefits. We made it much easier where you have a 25-hour-a-week assignment. And so when an employee gets assigned that, they're really clear now that they qualify for benefits versus in previous years, it'd be a year-to-year determination depending on how much they worked. And so there was some cleanup like that, but that's not substantive in nature. That just is more employee friendly, if that makes sense. Val, is there any other things that you would like to highlight?
Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I just in terms of any other benefits, I just wondered if there were other changes, but that makes sense.
Are there any other questions from board members about this or comments? Yeah, Ellen?
Yeah, I just have a comment before I vote. I was just going to mention that I recognize the need to move forward and act on a benefits package in this isn't a benefit, this handbook. Before open enrollment starts, so that the board does need to do something tonight. I also recognize that Director Tusher and Burke have put a lot of effort into creating well-balanced handbooks for our employees, and I trust their work. So I'm just going to mention that I did not have the opportunity to read and consider in their entirety these handbooks before this meeting. And so I must act based on my trust and respect for their work. And so I'll be voting to approve based on that. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, why don't we can go ahead and vote by roll call for the to approve the hourly employee guidebook.
Allenberg?
Aye.
Fox?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Michelson?
Aye.
Shaw?
Aye.
Mullen Friedman?
Aye.
The CES hourly employee guidebook is approved. Do I have a motion to approve the non-affiliated employee guidebook?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any comments on this guidebook, Nikki?
Not in excess of the cover page on it. Just really, this is a small guidebook. It's 6 employees currently, and so it's not a large group. And once again, it is a less than 1% increase, and there are no salary schedule enhancements. And then with board parameters that were previously given to us.
Are there questions from board members about this guidebook? No? Okay. We can move to vote via roll call on this guidebook.
Ellenberg,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Michelson,
Aye.
Shaw,
Aye.
Lon Friedman.
Aye.
The non-affiliated employee guidebook is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, Nikki.
We're going to move on to leadership and committee updates. Are there any committee updates from any board members?
This is Matt. Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Can I go?
Yes, you can.
Okay. One quick update. Not finance for once, but there is a subcommittee. Again, Owen and Julie are serving on this with me. The 3 of us are working together with some community members on looking at testing procedures and opportunities, especially things we can bring back into the schools in the first quarter of next year. I just wanted to thank the people that have been working on that committee. We're having our 3rd of 3 weekly meetings later this week. We'll be going through feedback we've gotten from speaking to 2 or 3 licensed outfits that are doing testing across Minnesota. The gold standard would be to have a rapid test that we could be able to utilize to analyze what's happening with kids and staff in a real-time fashion. No school's doing that in the state yet. 2 schools have run singular pilot programs with once-a-week testing, as we understand. So really trying to figure out what all the inputs are going to be to get to understanding what we'd have to do from a funding and operational and reporting and regulatory perspective is ongoing. So I just wanted to thank people working on that. Julie or Owen, if you guys have any other thoughts, I know everybody's putting time in. So I just want to highlight that as ongoing work, even while our kids are unfortunately home at the time.
Yeah, no, the only thing I would add to that is I think it's important that as we are looking ahead, that this would be, if we were able to do something like this would be one of the tools that we could tap. We've looked, no one's been able to find that magic path to get out of this, but we're working really hard to look at and turning every stone we possibly can to see what we can do to support getting our kids back in school. So this is one avenue that we're working on. I'm super honored to be part of the group. It's a wicked smart group. So
Matt and Julie, I have a question for you. Do you think it might be prudent for us to have a portion of one of our work sessions dedicated to talking about what we've been finding?
In December or more likely January, yes.
Okay.
I would not think in November. This is the 3rd meeting where we're going through logistics and we've done initial pricing and outcome discussions, but I don't think it's prime time ready yet for a full work session.
Okay, so maybe we can think about it for January.
That feels right.
Okay, I think it'd be great to the rest of the board and to have everyone else's perceptions and observations about it.
yeah, and I think the information, as we know, is changing by the minute, and statewide testing is rolling out, and they're working through the kinks there, and a lot of the same labs are crossing over in the same. So I think that would be that Matt's right about the timing.
Yeah, good idea. Oh, and I agree with you and Julie. I think January would be a good time to bring that to the fuller board.
Great. Thank you.
So I just wanted to thank the administration and people working on that right now, because everyone's already overburdened with flying the plane, but figuring out how to get it back full of passengers is going to be a good effort.
Great. Thank you. I wanted to remind the community again, our next board meeting will be fully remote. And then I wanted to let the community know that we will be having another special board meeting on Monday, 11/23 at 5 p.m., where we will be discussing athletics, fine arts activities, as well as the use of facilities. I met with Nick Kelly with the Bloomington Department of Health, Principal Beaton, Superintendent Schwartz, Mary Hyman, and Director Stein today. And we are scheduling that meeting to have a recommendation to the board, as well as some data available for the board to talk about this topic on Monday, a week from today. So at 5:00. So,
Erica, I have a follow-on question. I'm wondering how people would feel about this. I'm concerned about how the teachers are reacting to once they get in gear, and how the perception of the student or the teacher's survey went. There's an issue of optics that I'm a little bit concerned about. An email went out, and a meeting was held last Sunday afternoon, and about staffing, and it was from the union. And the next day we have a staffing shortage, and the day after that we have an emergency meeting about it. And so I'm just concerned about that the teachers felt that desperate that it went that direction. And I would like to have, a little more clarity with how they're feeling. That if the desperation was that high that we went to those lengths, I prefer to have more of a pulse beat on exactly how the teachers are feeling. So I don't know if that's something that we could institute maybe once a month for 15, 20, 30 minutes, just to get a feel for how this is actually really playing out with the teachers.
So we do have weekly meetings. If you remember when this started, that we have monthly, I don't know, John, if we have monthly or bi-weekly meetings. I think that if we want to talk about having more regular communication between the board and teachers, I think that's something that we need to talk about at a work session, not necessarily right now. But John, I don't know if you want to talk about how frequently you're meeting with the group of teachers.
So I think there's two avenues where teachers' voice is heard. One is I have a weekly COVID meeting with all the administration in the district, as well as other program leaders, and we really measure the pulse of what's happening in the buildings at that time. Principals have been very candid about how the program, how the instruction is being delivered, and what teachers are saying, because we have to respond to that in such a unique environment. So that's one place. And then there's representative from the teachers for EME on that. Then we also have, according to the state, I have to have a COVID incident command team, and a representative of EME is on that committee. And those are really the broader decisions, or the bigger decisions that I would bring to the board that are discussed there. So the discussion last week was around moving to distance learning. So we hear the sentiment of the teachers at that time. Mm-hmm. So there's two places where we get to hear that.
Okay, so Erica, this may not be the forum for me to bring this up, but I would be interested in some kind of maybe pulse beat. I don't know if we can institute some kind of regular, easy survey. So, and again, this is perhaps not the time to bring it up, but just to express that interest.
Okay, thank you, Owen. If there's nothing else, then this meeting...
Can I just say it's the Ed Fund kickoff this week? Right. I don't know.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the Edina Education Fund. I don't know if one of the representatives want to talk about that, or if I can just keep going.
Go ahead.
Okay, but the Edina Education Fund kickoff is this week, if anyone is listening, but there is a website set up and you can go on and vote for homemade, bid on a lot of different bakeries and sweets, and donate, and it's all in help with the mental health campaign that they are working hard on. There's virtual coffees. I highly encourage everyone to go to the website, the Edina Ed Fund, and find out about it, because they put a lot of work from this community, and the funding is essential, I think, for our students with major impact. So
great. Thank you. Good reminder. Thank you, Julie. So on that, unless I forgot something, we will adjourn the meeting, and our next meeting will be next Monday at 5 o'clock. So thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.